First, Saint Augustine, also known as Aurelius Augustinus, was the Catholic bishop of Hippo in northern Africa from 354 to 430 Common Era. He was prolific writer, a superb Roman-trained rhetorician, and widely regarded as the first Christian philosopher. Augustine's views on political and social philosophy represents an important intellectual bridge between late antiquity and the burgeoning medieval world, as he writes from a unique background and vantage point as a keen observer of society before the fall of the Roman Empire. Many scholars believe him to be the most significant Western philosopher due to the breadth and quantity of his work. Although Augustine would not have considered himself as a political and social philosopher, his writings on topics like the nature of human society, justice and nature and rule of the state, the relationship between church and state, just and unjust, war, and peace have all influenced the development of Western civilization. Augustine's political and social beliefs are an inextricable link to his theology. Understanding his goals necessitates a knowledge of history. Augustine, more than any other late antiquity thinker, stands at the crossroads of Christianity, philosophy, and politics. As a Christian clergyman, he sees it as his duty to defend his flock from heresies created in a period devoid of the direct heavenly revelations that marked the apostolic age. As a philosopher, he grounds his ideas in the Platonic tradition of Greek philosophy, particularly as expressed by the Neoplatonists of Alexandria. He sees the Roman Empire as the divinely ordained means through which the truth of Christianity are to be promoted and maintained as a famous Roman citizen. As the Vandals besieged the city of Hippo on the coast of northern Africa, Augustine died while chanting the penitential psalms. This happened 2 decades after Alaric sacked Rome.
The City of God. The work of Augustine most likely to be known as modern student and political thoughts in the City of God. Two cities, the City of God and the earthly city, are distinguished by the two loves, love of God and misdirected love of self, and by the two destinies, heaven and hell. Augustine was famous for contribution to theology and doctrine of predestination, a possession that only became pronounced later in the life. As a Platonist, Augustine taught in the term of the heresy of level of reality, in which lower levels and imitate or reflect the higher levels. Augustine is not a philosophy of black and white. True virtue pursues obedience to the true God, but sometimes like true virtue, namely love and honor, may lead by the two sometimes something like justice and peace, as did in Roman Republic. Some medical writer home, some modern historian have called political Augustinian. In Enfer of Augustine's discussion of Cicero, definition of the republic that among non-Christian there can be no community. Among medical Christian there are three views of good and evil of the government. Government may be and should be ruled of ideal Christian ruler, whom Protestant later called the good prince. Such a ruler would lead his people to obedience of God. Government may be simply as weekend Crowley and procession of the earthly city, as Pope Gregory VII in 1081 one writes, who does not know that the king of drugs has their rulership from those who are knowing God, grow from blind greed and theoretical presumption to decimate their equal, namely mankind, and pride, rapine, frivolity, murder, and crimes of all sorts, argue by the ruler of the world, the evil. Gregory VII Government exists to organize the cooperation of man and good world. As use modern praise, the son of the two cities united by the interest of the earthly peace and other earthly good value by the both Christian and others. Such limited view of the goals of the government is founded Marsilius and Markland. All three views called find support the city of God.
So, next is warfare. In warfare, Augustine insists that the God of the Old Testament is the same God as the God in the New Testament. And according to my research, God in the Old Testament is the God of wrath, and God in the New Testament is the God of love. Because in the Old Testament, God permits violence. The God who pours out his wrath against sin in the Old Testament is the same God who will inflict the vengeance of eternal punishment on those who do not believe in his Son, Jesus. And in the New Testament, the God who in the New Testament is described as loving the world enough to send his Son for their salvation. So, the question is, can the New Testament be reconciled in the Old Testament? We can reconcile the Old Testament and the New Testament if we read the whole book and understand the story of the scripture.
For the coercion of heretics, let's collaborate coercion of heretics first. Coercion. Coercion is the act, process, or power of coercing, while heretics is a person who differs in opinion from established religious dogma. In short, coercion of heretics is the process of individual who differs in opinions in establishing religious dogma. For the Augustine's view of warfare. In accordance with Augustine's view of warfare, Christians were entitled to ask the Roman authorities, including those among them who were Christians, for military protection against the violence of heretics and anti-Christians. In Augustine's view of warfare, Augustine said that Christian people must have a military protection in order to avoid any harmful or dangerous activities caused by the people violate heretics and anti-Christians. A man cannot believe unless he is willing. For this coercion, at first Augustine disapproved this type of coercion, but after a while he was persuaded and became an advocate of the use of force to compel them to come in. And Augustine often told this to his audience: "Unless you believe, you will not understand." Far from being a call to embrace fideism, it is a relatively sane observation that unless one believes what faith asserts as true, one would not be bothered trying to address the difficulties involved. The property of heretical sects may rightly be confiscated. According to Augustine, the property of heretical sects may rightly be confiscated, in which he justifies government seizure of donatives' properties. Heretical sects condemn the church hypocrisy and deserve wealth and corruption, as well as denying the legitimacy of the papacy, clergy, and even the sacraments. Orthodox Christians can rightly possess property. Augustine does not argue that only Orthodox Christians can rightly possess property, rather his point is that whosoever possesses property possesses it only by virtue of human laws made by kings and emperors. Orthodox means correcting in teaching, and Orthodox Christians is considered as the Roman Catholic Church and the Protestant churches to be incorrect in some teachings, including the relations between the persons of the Trinity. Next is the Caroligian political thoughts to be discussed by Masicampo, IBJ.
Next is Caroligian political thought, or traditionally called the Dark Age, in which it pertains or designating the arts, script, or culture of the Caroligian period, followed by what has been called the Caroligian Renaissance. This was occurred during the reigns of Caroligian rulers Charlemagne and Louis the Pius. Carolingian Renaissance was the first of three medieval renaissances, a period of cultural activity in the Carolingian Empire, taking the inspiration from the Christian Roman Empire of the 4th century. During this period, there was an increase of literature writing, the arts, architecture, jurisprudence, liturgical reforms, and scriptural studies. Carolingian was recognizable by its use of classic architecture. At first, they were royal agents sent out by Charles, but after they were important local magnates. They also applied national ideas to social issues for the first time in centuries, providing a common language and writing style that enabled communication throughout most of Europe.
So, civil and canon law. So, what is a canon law? A canon law is a set of ordinances and regulations made by the ecclesiastical authority for the government of Christian organizations or church and its members. So, it is also used to designate an order to a religious person. So, historians point to another Renaissance during the 12th century. Renaissance, or a revival of or renewed interest in something. This Renaissance of the 12th century included a revival in the study of civil law and influenced the study of canon law beginning with Augustine's Decretum. So ideas that medieval political thinkers took in different ways and to different degrees from the law text included the following. So first, a distinction among kinds of laws, namely natural law, law of nations, and civil law. So this idea can be traced back to Cicero, to the Stoics, and to Aristotle, but most medieval political thinkers encountered it in Augustine's Decretum. So next, a notion of rights, including natural rights or human rights, as we would say, attributable to individuals. So it is all about the basic rights and freedom of individual. So next, a belief in the one liberty of all men. So this idea is that all human beings are basically equal and that slavery is contrary to natural law, though in accordance with the law of nations. So next, a canon law doctrine that human law cannot altogether abolish the original commonness of things under law. So for example, a property owner must help the poor, and in case of necessity, a person may assert the natural rights to use anything needed to sustain life. So next, the doctrine that the source of political authority is the people, who have, however, entrusted their power to the emperor or other rule. So for example, here in the Philippines, we people have the right to elect and to choose who would be our leader in our country. So next, the doctrine that either the Pope or Emperor or both has a fullness of power. So this idea can be seen also in the distinction between church and state, because they believe that the priest has the higher power in the society. So that's all for the civil and canon law.
Natural law and natural rights. So natural law is a system of law based on the close observations of human nature and based on the values intrinsic to human natures that can be deduced and applied independent in a positive way. According to natural law theory, all people have inherent rights confirmed not by act of legislations but by God, nature, or reasons. This can be also referred to theories of ethics, politics, civil law, and religious morality. These ideas of natural laws has been part of Christian truth since the Roman Empire. The foundation for natural law as a consistent system was laid by Canon. According to him, natural law is an internal law from God that operates in humans. Human is a product of reasons which is based on natural law. So, natural rights, on the other hand, are rights that are not dependent on the customs, beliefs, or any particular culture, and therefore it is universal. According to the readings, natural rights may be simplified something that natural law requires or permits, and it is certain freedoms belong to natural law positively in the sense that there is presumptions in their favor, so that they cannot abolish, and at least for all circumstances, or cannot be abolished except for good reasons. So in medieval, the natural rights foreshadow modern rights as human rights.
Now let us proceed to a reflection as a social science student major in political science. As a social science student, major in political science, I've learned various things which make me more cautious in my actions, especially in judging of a person and incidents. I learned to classify a different behavior and understand them in some circumstances because of this course. Before, to solve a problem like fighting between my two nieces, I just looking for who had fault. But now I am with the reason and why she do that kind of stuff. And I realize that people have real freedom in everything. They can do whatever they want, choose what they like, but it was bounded by the law, which as long as it was not against the law, you are free to choose whatever you desire. Then, if you are a political science student, you have learned and understand the flow of the governments, differentiate the political issue, and more have attention for what is happening in our government. Furthermore, for my experience as being a political science student, political science is not that easy, but it was very interesting if you really do love this course and give you more knowledge about governance and current situation of our government and the same time in our society.